Okay. Okay. So text 239. So 288. We're in the middle of Purva Paksha, presenting the Sri Vaishnava position. Tatreshwaram Tadakshanasau Katham Bhutam Drigasavam Sandranande Drisham Suttu Madakatvatsa Asavaham. So there, Brahma saw the Supreme Lord. What was he like? He was an intoxicating beverage for the eyes. Seeing him enlivened the eyes to the point of madness, filling them with intense ecstasy. Pidamshutpadenasya dhvanyate shyamavarnata. The phrase yellow garment subtly implies his dark blue complexion. Lord Narayana's yellow garment elegantly complements the color of his body. Yes. Shyameti pitambarasya shobhadayitva iti artha. That combination is a very good combination when you have a yellow cloth. Adhyarniya shabdena Mahayogahya Pitakam Shri Padmottara Khandoktam Atraivagre Pravakshyate. The word greatly worshipable refers to his throne named Mahayoga. Later we will give a description of it from Shri Padma Purana's Uttarakhanda. Tatasro Hladini Kirti Karuna Tushtaya Smrita Shaktaya Shodashatraiva Purumeva Pratarshita. Scripture identifies as four energies as Hladini, Kirti, Karuna, and Tushti. We have already discussed the 16 energies. Hladini, the pleasure-giving potency; Kirti, the energy of fame; Karuna, compassion; Tushti, nourishment. Vidyaya Panchaparvani, Sankhya, Dinyatra, Panchacha. The five energies mentioned here are the five aspects of knowledge, Sankhya and so on. Tani, Pancharatre, Sankhya Yoga to Vairagyam, Tapo Bhaktischa Keshave, Panchaparveti Vidyayam, Yayavidvan Harim Vishe iti. These are mentioned in the Pancharatra. Spiritual education has five aspects, namely analytical study of material creation, yoga practice, meditation on the Lord, renunciation, austerity, devotion for Lord Keshava. By such education, one can enter into the existence of Lord Hari. इत्येताभिर्वृतं पंचविंशत्या शक्तिभिः सदा भगैरैश्वर्य धर्माद्यै स्वैरसाधारणोदयै इतरत्र विरिञ्च्यादावध्रुवैरस्थिरैः कृशैः स्व एव धाम्नि वैकुण्ठे रतिं विदधतं सदा किं वा स्वरूपभूतत्वात् श्रियस्तस्य स्वधामता. The Lord is always surrounded by these 25 energies. He is also attended by his own unique opulences of controlling power, religion, and so on. These opulences appear impermanent and insignificant when reflected in Brahma and other demigods. He always enjoys his own abode Vaikuntha, or if we take the word Dhamma to mean body, it indicates that he always enjoys Goddess Shri because she belongs to the essence of his being. Lord Narayan always enjoys varieties of pleasure in his eternal kingdom. Vaikuntha. On the other hand, if we understand Dhama to refer to his consort Shri, he always enjoys her company. In fact, it is understood that the entire spiritual world is just an expansion of the Lord's own internal potency. तथा च भार्गवतंत्रे शक्ति शक्तिमतोश्चापि न विभेद कथंचन अविभिन्नापि स्वेच्छादि शब्दैरपि विभाष्यते इति. Also, the Bhargava Tantra states there is never any difference between the energy and the possessor of the energy. But even though the Lord's energy is not different from him, she is described as if she were different with terms such as swa-ichha, his own desire. This has been explained. Anushri dhameti katham. Anushri haridhameti katham. Dhama shabdasya vigrahavachitva dhamadehi yehe rashmamti metini nahi. Shri parer vigraha iti che. Now, if someone places an objection, how can you say that Shri is the abode of Lord Hari? After all, the word Dhama means can refer to a body. In fact, Dhama can refer to a body, a home, and it can refer to effulgence, according to the Medini dictionary. And we know that Shri cannot be the body of Lord Hari. So in response, he refers to this verse quoted from Bhagavatantra. Kladini Shakti Khalu Shri Tad Abhinnatva Tad Vigraha Rupa Eva Seti Kim Anupapannam. The internal potency is indeed the goddess of fortune. So how can it be inappropriate to refer to her as his body? What is wrong with that? Because she's not different from him. Vishesha Balapto, Bhedakaryam Bhavishyati. It is by the power of Vishesha, spiritual variegatedness, that there is an appearance of difference. Satta Sati Ityadivat. This is like stating existence exists. Kala Sarvada Asti. Time always exists. And so on. Yatyapya bhinna shaktis tathapi swechhadi shabdeir uchyate vishesha samarthya. Even though that potency is not different from him, still we refer to her as his desire and so on. Someone who thinks that the Supreme has no individual body might object to the expression Lord Hari's Dhamma on the grounds that Dhamma means personal form. According to the Medini dictionary, Dhamma Rashma. Dhamma means body, house, or ray. We can answer this objection by citing the Bhagavatantra's hint about the simultaneous difference and non-difference of the personality of Godhead and his potencies. Goddess Shri is the Lord's Kladini Shakti, his pleasure potency. Since she is not different from him, it is appropriate to think of her as his Dham, not only in the sense of his radiance, but also in the sense of his body, by the transcendental principle of Vishesha, acknowledging variety in the changeless Supreme. The Shakti that is identical with Shaktiman can also be said to be his own. Kimcha Padmottara Khande Pradhana Paramam Vyamnor Antare Vrajanadi Vedanga Sweda Janita Toyesh Prasravita Shubha. There is also the following description given in the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana. Between the material creation and the supreme sky is the Viraja river. In this auspicious river flows sacred water born from the perspiration of the Vedic corollaries. So now we come across an elaborate description of Vaikuntha from the Padma Purana. The short description of Vaikuntha in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, is supplemented here by an elaborate account from the Padma Purana, which Lord Shiva spoke to his wife Gauri. This and the subsequent texts up to text 250 appear as verses 58 to 65 of chapter 228 of the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana. This is to further reinforce the same point. Tasyahmare paravyom nityapad bhutam sanatanam amritam shashvatam nityam anantam brahmam padam shuddha sattvam mayam divyam aksharam brahmanaham aneka koti suryagni tulya vakchasamabhyayam. Beyond the Viraja river in the spiritual sky is the eternal existence of the three quadrants. This is the supreme abode, immortal, ever fresh, unchanging, unlimited, apprised of the substance of pure goodness. That abode of the supreme truth is radiant and infallible. It possesses a brilliant effulgence equal to the ever blazing fire of many millions of suns. So Sanatana here refers to eternal in general, but Shashvata indicates that the spiritual world is constantly newer and newer. Sarva Vedamayam Shubham, Sarva Prayavarjitam, Asankyam Majaram Satyam, Jagrat Swapnadi Varjitam, Hiranmayam Moksha Padam, Brahmananda Sukha Vayam, Samanadhikya Rahitam, Adyanta Rahitam Shubham, Tejasatya Bhutam Ramyam, Nityam Ananda Sagaram, Evamati Gunopetam Tanvishnu Paramam Padam. That supreme abode contains all the Vedas. It is completely pure and free from any kind of dissolution. It cannot be measured and is a never decaying eternal truth where there are no changing phases of consciousness, wakefulness, sleep, and so on. It is the golden abode of liberation, identified with the blissful pleasure of Brahman realization. No place equals or surpasses it. It is completely auspicious and without beginning or end. Most wonderfully effulgent and attractive. It is an eternal ocean of bliss. These transcendental qualities and many more are to be found there. It is the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. So it is spotlessly clean. It is golden, meaning that it is purely spiritual. Shubham nirmalam asankyam aparimitam hiranmayam chidvikhanam. It is concentrated spirit. Natad bhasayate surya na shashankona bhavaka yadrattvana nivattante tadham paramam hare. That place is not illuminated by the sun, by the moon, or by fire. One who goes there never returns. That is the supreme abode of Hari. Tad Vishnu paramam dhama shashvatam nityam achyutam nahi varnayitum shakyam kalpakoti shatairapi. That supreme abode of Vishnu is eternal, changeless, and infallible. One could not completely describe it even in billions of Brahma's days. Tatreva Agre, and a little further on in that very description of Vaikuntha. Tatreva Agre, Shri Shangri Bhakti Sevaika Rasabhoga Vivardhita, Mahatmano Mahabhaga Bhagavat Pada Sevaka, Tad Vishnu Paramam Dhama Yati Prema Sukha Pradam, Nana Janapada Kiranam Vaikuntram Tadhare Padam, Prakareischa Vimaneischa, Saudhi Ratnam Mayen Vritam. Later on, in the same part of the Padma Purana, greatly fortunate saintly persons who serve the Supreme Lord's feet go to that supreme abode of Vishnu, which bestows the joy of pure love. These great souls are invigorated by relishing the exclusive taste of devotion service to the feet of the husband of the goddess of fortune. That abode of Lord Hari, Vaikuntha, teems with various residential communities boasting great walls, celestial airplanes, and palaces built of gems. These verses define who is fit to enter Vaikuntha. This and the subsequent texts up to text 258 appear as verses 9 to 21 of chapter 228 of the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana. तन्मध्ये नगरी दिव्या सायोध्ये प्रकीर्तिता मणिकांचन चित्राढ्या प्राकारैस्तोरणैर्वृता चतुर्द्वार समायुक्ता रत्नगोपुर संवृता. Within that abode lies a radiant city, renowned as Ayodhya. Surrounding the city are walls festooned with garlands of leaves and 4 entrances surmounted by gateway towers, richly decorated with jewels and gold. The name Ayodhya indicates a place that cannot be attacked, or that can never be touched by the illusory power of material nature. As mentioned here, Toranas are garlands made from the auspicious leaves of mango and other trees. They decorate the city walls, especially for greeting honored guests. Gopuras are city gates according to the Amara Kosha, Purudwaram to Gopuram. Chandadidvarpalaischa Kumudadyai Surakshita Chanda Prachandal Pragdware Yame Bhadra Subhadra Kau Varunyam Jaya Vijayau Soumya Dhatra Vidhata Rau. Chanda and others guard the gates, and Kumuda and others protect the city. Chanda and Prachanda guard the eastern gate, Bhadra and Subhadra the southern gate, Jaya and Vijaya the western gate, and Dhata and Vidhata the northern gate. Kumudakshascha Pundariko Thava Manaha Shankukarna Sarvanetra Sumukha Supratishpita Ete Dikpataya Prokta Puryamatra Shubhamane. The guardians of the quarters in this divine city, all lovely faced lady, are Kumuda and Kumudaksha, Pundarika and Vamana, Shankukarna and Sarvanetra, and Sumukha and Supratishpita. Koti Vaishvanara Prakhya Griha Pankti Bhiravrita Arudha Yauvanir Nitye Divyanari Narayuta. The city is filled with rows of brilliant houses resembling millions of fire gods. Its inhabitants are divine, eternal men and women in the prime of youth. Antahpuram Devasya Mathe Purya Manohar Mani Prakara Samyuktam Varatorana Shobhitam Vimaner Vibhukhyascha Prasadair Vritam Divyapsaro Ganai Stripe Sarvata Samalankritam. In the center of the city is the Supreme Lord's charming private precinct, which is enclosed by gem-studded walls embellished by excellent gateway towers. This precinct abounds with celestial airplanes and many first-class residences and palaces. It is beautified everywhere by groups of transcendental apsaras. Now these apsaras, they are residents of Vaikuntha. These are not the ones that are found in Swarga, the material apsaras. These are not that. Madhyetu Mandapam Divyam Rajasthanam Mahotsavam Manikya Stambha Sahasra Jushtam Ratnamayam Shubham Nityamukta Samakirnam Samagano Pashobhitam. In the center of the precinct is a divine pavilion, a place for great royal festivals, built of jewels and boasting thousands of ruby pillars. It is all auspicious and crowded with many eternally liberated persons. The songs of the Samaveda enhance its beauty. Nityamukta, Nitya Nivritta Tamokhi. The Nityamuktas, or the eternally liberated persons, are those who are never influenced by Tama Guna, by the darkness of ignorance. Not just Tama Guna. They are not influenced by Prakriti, because ultimately Prakriti or material nature itself is considered to be darkness. Madhya Simhasanam Ramyam Sarva Vedamayam Shubham Dharmadi Daivattai Nitya Pratam Veda Mayatma Kai Dharmagya Maheshwarya Vairajyai Pada Vigrahai. In the center of this pavilion sits an enchanting, auspicious royal throne made of the combined Vedas. Surrounding the throne are the eternal deities of duty and so on, dharma, who are directly expanded from the Vedas. The personified legs of the throne are duty, knowledge, supreme power, and renunciation. Dharma, jnana, maheshwarya, and vairagya. Everything in the spiritual world is alive, including the Supreme Lord's furniture. They are situated as the furniture of the Lord, but they are actually conscious beings. Tatraiva vasanti madhyame tatra vahni surya sudham shavaha kurmascha nagarajascha vainateyas trayishvaraha chandamsi sarvamantrascha pitha rupatvamasthita sarvakshaраmayam divyam yoga pitham vidismatam. In the same Padma Purana, within that throne reside the deities of fire, the sun, and the moon, as well as Kurma, Nagaraja, and Garuda, the Lord of the three Vedas. The Vedic meters and all the Vedic mantras serve as the platform supporting this effulgent, holiest of thrones, which scripture says contains all the sounds of the alphabet. Lord Narayana's carrier Garuda is the master of the three principal Vedas. In particular, the movement of his wings produces the sounds of the Sama Veda. This and the subsequent texts up to text 283 appear as verses 23 to 54 of chapter 228 of the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana. Tanmadhyeshtadalam Padmam Udayarka Samaprabham Tanmadhye Karnikayam tu Savitriyam Shubha Darshanim Ishwarya Sahadeveshas Atrasinah Parahkuman. In the middle of the throne is an 8-petaled lotus flower, as brilliant as the rising sun. A lovely faced one. In the middle of that lotus, on its pericarp, comprised of the Gayatri mantra, sits the Supreme Person, the Lord of all Lords, with the Supreme Consort by his side. So that pericarp is composed of the Gayatri mantra. Gayatri Rupayam Padmakarmikayam. Indivaratarashyama Surya Koti Samaprabha Yuva Kumara Snigdhanga Komalaya Vaidutaha. His complexion is dark blue, like the petal of an Indivara lotus, and his effulgence is equal to millions of suns. He is a fresh youth with charming limbs, and all parts of his body are delicate. Lord Narayana is playful like a youth. Kumar Trihapa. Kullaraktam Bhujanitha Komalam Karabjavan Prabuddha Pundarika Shah Subhru Latai Yugan Kitaha. The soles of his soft lotus feet and the palms of his hands resemble blooming red lotus flowers. His wide open lotus eyes are crowned by his two beautiful creeper-like eyebrows, Sunasa Sukapolardhya Sushobham Mukhapankajaha Mukta Phalabhadantardhya Susmita Dharavidrumaha. He has a lovely nose, a fine broad forehead, and a splendid lotus mouth. His teeth are lustrous like pearls, and his smiling lips are the color of coral. Paripurnendu Sankasham Susmita Pankajaya Karunaditya Varnabhyam Kundalabhyam Virajita. His wonderfully smiling lotus face resembles the full moon. On that face shine a pair of brilliant earrings, the color of the rising sun. Susnigdha Neelakutilak Kuntalay Rupashobhita Mandara Parijatardhyat Kavari Kritakeshava. Enhancing his beauty are locks of deep blue, very soft curly hair, some of which has been tied into a top knot and decorated with mandara and parijata flowers. Pratarudya sahasramshu nitha kaustubha shobhitaha harasvarna sragasakta kambu griva virajitaha. Is decorated with the kaustubha gem, which resembles the 1,000-rayed rising sun. Pearl necklaces and gold chains embrace his beautiful conch shell neck. Conch shell neck. Rekha Trayanchita Griva Kambu Griveti Kathyate. A neck marked with 3 lines is called Kambu Griva. Conch shell neck. Simhaskanda Nibhai Prochai Pinay Ramsek Virajitaha Pina Vritta Yata Bhujai Chatur Vipashobhitaha. His handsome, high, broad shoulders resemble those of a lion. He has 4 powerful and finely shaped long arms decorated with armlets, bracelets, and rings. On each of his arms, Lord Narayana wears a gold armlet above the elbow and a gold bracelet near the wrist. Balarkakoti Sankashai Kaustubhadyai Subhushanai Virajita Mahavaksha Vanamala Vibhushitaha. His mighty chest is splendidly decorated with flower garlands and with the Kaustubha gem and other beautiful ornaments shining like millions of rising suns. Vidhatur Jananasthana Nadhi Pankajashobhitaha Balatapanighas Lakshna Pitavastha Samanvitaha. His beauty is further enhanced by his lotus navel, the birthplace of the creator Brahma. He wears a garment of fine yellow cloth, glistening like the morning sun. Vidhatur Jananasthaneti Edasman Garbhodaka Shayasya Advaitadityartha. Now, this is a description of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha, Mahavaikuntha. How can this navel be described as the birthplace of Brahma? After all, Brahma was born to Lord Vishnu here. He was not born to Lord Vishnu in Mahavaikuntha. So Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu says, this is because this form is not different from Garbhoda Krishna and Vishnu. Therefore, this description has been provided. Brahma takes birth not in Vaikuntha but in the Garbha ocean. Still, since Garbhoda Krishna is not different from Narayana, Lord Narayana is certainly Brahma's father. And therefore, we will find that our Acharyas describe, Krishna's Kaviraj also describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Krishna is Brahma's father, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. Same logic. Nana Ratna Vichitangri Katakabhyam Virajitaha Sajyotsna Chandra Pratiman Nakhapanti Bhiravritaha. On his legs are beautiful anklets inlaid with various kinds of colorful jewels. His feet are adorned with rows of toe nails effulgent like the moon. Kotikkandat Lavanya Saundarya Nirachita Divya Chandana Liptango Vanamala Vibhushitaha Shankar Chakra Vrihitabhyam Udbahubhyam Virajitaha Varadabhya Hastabhyam Udarabhyam Tathaivacha. His limbs anointed with heavenly sandal paste and bedecked with flower garlands. That infallible Supreme Lord is an ocean of beauty more charming than millions of cupids. His 2 beautiful upper hands. In his 2 beautiful upper hands, he holds a conch and disc, and with his other 2 hands, he shows the gesture of benediction, bestowing fearlessness. So there are 2 pairs of arms. the upper arms and the lower arms. Vamanka Samsita Devi Mahalakshmi Maheshwari Hiranyavarna Harini Suvarna Rajata Praja. At his left sits his supreme consort, Goddess Mahalakshmi, the counterpart of Lord Hari. She has a golden complexion and wears necklaces made of gold and silver. Harini Manohara Swarna Pratimo Upamatvat. She is charming. She is golden. The name Hari can mean all attractive, but since Goddess Mahalakshmi attracts even Hari, she deserves the feminine form of the same name, Harini. Hara also means she who attracts Lord Hari, and therefore Hari can mean O Lord Hari, but Hare can also mean O Lord Hara or Goddess Hara. In fact, but that's the meaning, that's the superior meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra. My dear Lord, my dear internal potency of the Lord, please engage me in your service. The word Harini also alludes to the exceptional beauty of a deity made of gold. The Maithili dictionary explains Harini Haritayam cha Nari Dhritta Bhedayo Suvarna Pratibhayam cha. Harini can refer to the color yellow, a beautiful woman of a certain kind of character, a particular verse meter or a golden statue. Sarva Lakshana Sampanna Yauvanarambha Vigraha Ratna Kundala Samyukta Nilam Uchita Shishya. Endowed with all signs of auspiciousness, her body is on the threshold of youth. She wears gem-studded earrings and has deep blue curly hair. Divya Chandana Littangi, Divya Pushpo Pashobhita, Mandara Ketaki Jati, Pushpanchita Sukuntala. Her limbs are anointed with heavenly sandal paste and she is decorated with heavenly flowers. She wears Mandara Ketaki and Jati flowers in her beautiful locks of curly hair. Subhru, Sunasa, Sushroni, Pinon Matapayodhara, Paripurnendu Sankasha, Susmita Nanapankaja. She has beautiful eyebrows, a beautiful nose, beautiful lips, and high swollen breasts. Her smiling lotus face resembles the full moon. Pranaditya Varnabhyam, Kundalabhyam Virajita. Taptak Kanchana Varnabha, Taptak Kanchana Bhushana. He is decorated with a pair of earrings, the color of the rising sun, and her complexion and ornaments are the color of molten gold. Hastaish Chaturbhis Samyukta Karakam Vijay Bhushita, Nanaratna Vichitradhya Karakam Vijay Malaya, Harakeyura Katakair Anguri Yeishcha Bhushita. She has 4 arms and wears decorations of golden lotus flowers on her body. Around her neck, she wears a garland of golden lotus flowers strung together with various colorful gems. She is also adorned with necklaces, armlets, bracelets, and rings for her fingers and toes. Bhuja Yugma Dhradodagra Padma Yugma Virajita Grihita Matulangakya Dambu Natakaranchita. The 2 of her hands hold a pair of beautiful long-petaled lotus flowers. In another hand, she holds a golden Matulanga fruit. Grihitam Matulangakhyam Jamuna Yena Tadishna Swarnam Mani. Goddess Lakshmi playfully carries a gold-colored fruit. This fruit has 4 names according to the Amara Kosha: Phalapura, Bijakura, Ruchaka, and Matulanga. In English, this fruit is called a citron. Evam Nityanapainya Mahalakshmiya Maheshwara Modate Paramam Vyomni Shashvate Sarvada Prabhu. Thus, with his constant companion Mahalakshmi, the Supreme Lord, the Master of all, forever enjoys in the eternal spiritual sky. Parshvayo Ravani Lile Samasine Shubhanane Ashtadikshu Dalagreshu Vimaladyascha Shaktayaha. Sitting on either side of him are Bhu and Leela, O sweet faced lady. And in the 8 directions surrounding him, at the points of the lotus petals, are his potencies headed by Vimala. Bhu and Leela are goddess Lakshmi's close companions. Lakshmi sits right at Narayana's side, and Bhu and Leela sit a little further away. Bhudevi and Leela Devi or Lakshmi are Sakhya. Bhudevi and Leela Devi are friends of Lakshmi Devi. Vimalotkarshini Jnana. Vimalotkarshini Jnana. Kriya Yoga Tathaiva Cha. Prahvi Satya Tatheshana Mahishya Paramatmanaha. Grihitva Chamaran Divyan Sudhagara Samaprabhan. Sarval Lakshana Sampanna Modante Patimachyutam. These are Vimala, Utkarshini, Jnana, Kriya, Yoga, Prahvi, Satya, and Ishana, queens of the Supreme Soul, holding celestial chamara fans as radiant as the moon and possessing all good qualities. These consorts serve their husband, the infallible Lord, for his pleasure. Divyapsaro Ganah Panchashatas Sankhyacha Yoshita Antahpura Nivasinyas Sarva Varana Pushta Padmahastashata Sarva Koti Vaishwanara Prabha Sarvalakshana Sampanna Chitamshu Sadrishana Tabhi Parivito Raja Shushubhe Paramah Kuman. Also present were 500 women, transcendental apsaras who reside in the Lord's private precinct. Inner quarters. Inner quarters refers to the place where a king's queens live, along with the queen's maidservants and so on. Each of them decorated with all kinds of ornaments and holding a lotus in her hand radiates an effulgence equal to millions of fires. These women possess all good qualities and their faces resemble the moon with its cooling rays. They surround their king, the resplendent supreme person. Ananta Vihagadhisha Senanyadhyai Sureshwara Anyai Parijanair Nityai Muktaishcha Parisamprita Modate Ramaya Sadham Bhogeshwariyah Parahpuman. Also in attendance are Anantashinj, Garuda, the chief of birds, Vishwaksena, the Lord's army commander, the principal demigods, and other eternal servants and liberated persons. The Supreme Person thus enjoys his opulent facilities in the company of Goddess Rama. Vishwaksena was there. So this information you can see is a very charming presentation of the opulent glories of Sri Vaikuntha. This is to attract us to come there. Similarly, the higher abodes of the Lord, they are also described in the scriptures. Not so elaborately, because this is to give a general account, and the specific features of higher abodes, they are noted in the scriptures. Atra Karika, some verses to clarify. Arthatah shabdataschatra yat punah punaruchyate tad asambhavya vastutvad pratityai hetuvadinam. Karika is explaining this. Some repetition of meanings and words has occurred here. The author has done this to help skeptics understand the intelligible subject matter. It's a matter of practical psychology that difficult to understand ideas can be impressed on the mind if one hears them repeatedly. Duruhortha khalu asakruta buddhishto hridayam arohati. Shrisham Nivasa Rupanam Vedanam Tatra Murtata Tatastad Dangato Jata Sveta Paramapayana. There in the Viraja river, the Vedas, who are composed of the breathing of the Lord of Goddess Shri, are present in their personal forms. Their bodies generate supremely purifying perspiration. त्रिपाद विभूतेर धामत्वात् त्रिपाद भूतं तु तत्परम विभूतेर मायी सर्वा प्रोक्ता पादात्मिका यतः. That abode is called the three quadrant manifestation because it is an expansion of three quarters of the Lord's opulence. The entire opulent expansion of Maya is said to comprise only one quarter. The world of Vaikuntha is complete, but it is not the whole of Lord's domain. One fraction of his potencies is absent there, namely the inferior material portion, the creation of Maya. Tripad vibhuteriti ekapan mayi ki vibhutis tatra nasti deva. Said to be 3/4 because 1/4, which is Maya, does not exist there. Amritam sushtu mathuram shashvatam tu muhur navam shuddha sattvam tu tat proktam sattvam prakritam tu yam nityaksharaadi shabdaistu shadbhava parivartana. The supreme abode is called Amrita, nectarian, because it is perfectly full of sweetness. It is called Shashvata, eternal, because it is constantly new. And it is called Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, because it is the non-material form of goodness. Notice that, non-material form of goodness. Because it is a non-material form of goodness. The terms Nitya, perpetual, Akshara, infallible, and so on indicate the absence of the 6 kinds of material change. 6 kinds of material change. Jayate, asti, vartate, parinamate, apakshiyate, mriyate. Material bodies take birth. Jayate, vartate, when they grow. Asti, when they remain for some time. Viparinamate, when they produce byproducts. Apakshiyate, they begin to dwindle. Mriyate, then they die. These things don't happen in the spiritual world. Imagine a place without the 3 modes of material nature and a place without the effects of time. There is no past, present, future, and there are no 3 modes of material nature, which basically means you are not pulled and pushed by any psychological force. Here, Sattoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna constantly attacking us. That doesn't happen there. Kimcha Muthapidanam Harika. Anyway, since I'm late, I'm just going to go forward for another until 5:30. Kimcha Anuthapitanam Harika. Madhyamavaranam dikshu Purvadishu Tilashtasu Yuhe Lakshmyadi Sahite Vasudeva Divir Matam. Some karikas or additional verses not cited. The first surrounding shell is understood to include Vasudeva and Lakshmi, and the other 3 Vyuha expansions, each with his consort, situated in the 8 directions beginning with the east. Puriyo Lakshmya Saraswatya Rateh Kanter Anukrama Vidikshu Paramam Vyomna Agneya Shukitita. The residences of Lakshmi, Saraswati, Rati, and Kanti are described as being in the intermediate corners of the spiritual sky, beginning with Lakshmis in the southeast and moving clockwise. Text 288 through 294 summarize another lengthy passage of the Padma Purana Uttarakhanda, which describes the expansions of Narayana who surround his central abode in 7 concentric shells. Here is a description of the first shell. Vasudeva has his abode in the east, and his consort Lakshmi Devi stays on his right, and in the southeast, stays on his right in the southeast. Sankarshana stays in the south, and his consort Saraswati resides in the southwest. Now, this Saraswati is the internal potency of the Lord. Saraswati is originally Lakshmi's name, particularly the form of Lakshmi, who stays with Narayana in the form of Sankarshana. Pradyumna stays in the west and his consort Rati in the northwest, and Aniruddha stays in the north and his consort Kanti in the northeast. You have these Vishnu forms and you have these Shri forms. केशवाद्यैर्घ्यः चतुर्विंशत्या तु द्वितीयकम् अष्टासु किल काष्ठासु तेषां ज्ञेयं त्रयं त्रयम्. The second surrounding shell contains the abodes of the 24 expansions beginning with Keshava. 3 expansions are understood to be present in each of the 8 directions. The abodes of these expansions within the second shell are situated as follows. In the east are Keshava, Narayana and Madhava. In the southeast are Govinda, Vishnu and Madhusudana. In the south are Trivikrama, Vamana and Sridhara. In the southwest are Rishikesha, Padmanabha and Damodara. In the west are the second expansions of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna. In the northwest are Aniruddha, Purushottama and Athokshaja. In the north are Nrsimha, Achyuta and Janardana. And in the northeast are Upendra, Hari and Krishna. This Krishna is one of the 24 second level Vyuha expansions that come originally from the son of Yashoda. This information is gathered from Padma Purana itself. Dashabhir Matsyakurmadhyair Dashadikshu Tritiyakam. The third shell includes 10 expansions, beginning with Matsya and Kurma in the 10 directions. In the 10 directions, the 8 directions already mentioned, plus above and below, are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki. Among these, Krishna has his abode in the region above, indicating his supremacy. Krishna Yadyapya Avarattvena Uttastathapi Tad Dishastadursattva Tad Vartinastasya Paramyam Veditavyam Grathasya Tallokavattvena Tad Pakshapatitvepi Vastustite Atyaga. So even though Krishna has been described as being situated in one of these coverings, still he is on the top. And from this we understand that he is supreme. Even though this book is partial to presenting the supremacy of his abode, still he does not give up objective presentation of reality. Satyachyutananda Durga Vishwaksena Gajanani Shankha Padma Nidhivyam Chaturyamashtasu Dikshvidam. Satya, Achyuta, Ananta, Durga, Vishwaksena, elephant-faced Ganesha, and the treasured Shankha and Padma are situated in the 8 directions of the 4th shell. This Durga and Ganesha are not the deities of the material world, but they are prototypes, originals, the original forms, transcendental associates of the Lord of Vaikuntha. Since Shukadeva Goswami has declared Nayatra Maya, Maya is absent there, this Durga and Ganesha must have purely spiritual bodies. Into Chid Vigraho, Tat Parshadav, Rigvedadi Chatushkena Savitya Garudena Cha, Tathatharmam Makabhyam Cha, Panchamam Purvan Matam. The 4 Vedas beginning with the Rig Veda, the Gayatri Mantra, Garuda, and the presiding deities of religious principles and sacrifice are similarly situated in the 5th shell. The Vedas are present in their personal forms in the 5th avarana, as are Dharma and Makha, the presiding deities of religious principles and sacrifice. Dharma refers to religious principles, Makha refers to sacrifice. Now these are present in their forms. Yeah. They're present in their personal forms. Yatra Murti Dhara Kala, same stated. Makashabdena Kriyadishtatra Devata Murtaiva Gyaya. The word Maka or 5 sacrifices refers to the presiding deity of 5 sacrifices, who is present in his form. The 6th covering is described in the verse beginning with Shankha. शंख चक्र गदा पद्म खड्ग शार्ंग हलस्तथा मुशलेन च षष्ठम स्यात् इंद्राद्यै सप्तमं तथा. The Lord's personified conch, disc, club, lotus, sword, sharanga bow, plow, and churning rod are situated in the sixth shell. Indra and the other demigods inhabit the seventh. The Supreme Lord's weapons occupy the sixth covering. The personages inhabiting the seventh shell are not like the conditioned souls serving the Lord as demigods in the material universe, but are perfectly liberated planetary rulers. They are the transcendental Indra, Agni, Yama, Nivruti, Varuna, Vayu, Kubera, and Ishana. Indradhyai Rashtavistu Saptamam Yeyam. No, Indradiyo Devata Prapancha Lokanga Bhuta Kyata Katham Aprapancha Lokam Gattayochate Tatraha Sathya Ityadi Sarakam Padmotra Khandiyam Eva. But then Indra and other deities are part and parcel of the material worlds, material universes. That is well known. But here it is said that they are part of the spiritual world. So then he gives evidence. Sadhya Marud Ganashaiva Vishve Deva Sathaivacha Nityasatve Paredhamni Yechanyatri Divaukasa. The Sadhyas, Maruds, and Vishvedevas in the transcendental abode are all eternal. The different lords in this material firmament are not eternal. The demigods living in the avaranas of Narayana are worshipped by their counterparts in the material world. It is based on statements from scriptures like this that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur insists that Madhvacharya is actually an incarnation of Vayu from Vaikuntha. He is an incarnation of Vaikuntha Vayu. The Tattvavadi branch of the Madhva Sampradaya, they repeatedly say that Madhvacharya is Vayu. Madhvacharya is also stated that he is Vayu. But they think that he is incarnation of the Vayu demigod of the material world. He says that in the Brahmagyavarta Purana, that's a description of the spiritual world in which there's a mention of Vayu in the spiritual world. Here also we come across these demigods in the spiritual world. It is this Vayu. Vasudevadimurtinam saptatestu chaturbhujaha lokastu tavat sankhya paredhamni chaka sati. These 74 persons beginning with Vasudeva have their own 74 planets that shine in the spiritual sky. Trishuk pumso vatareshu rudra padma bhavat tatha bhritva dikrita vishnureva mahattamaha kim punah purushas tatra vasudevotra intaram tatrapi kittamam soyam mahavaikuntha nayakaha. Among the triple avatars of the Purusha, Vishnu is far greater than both Rudra and lotus born Brahma. Bhrigu and others have asserted this. Certainly the Purusha is even greater. Lord Vasudeva is greater than the Purusha, and the Lord of Mahavaikuntha is greater still. Objection. Nanu Mahavaikuntha Nathasya Vishnuriha Parami Nirupana Shraddha Jagya Kritameva Eka Murtistrayo Deva Brahma Vishnu Shivatmakaha Ityadi Smritibhir Brahma Shivayoscha Tallabha Iti Tridevyai Vir Akshipte Praha Trishviti. The objection is stating that Lord Vishnu, the master of Mahavaikuntha, is supreme is simply because one has become dull due to religious enthusiasm. Because there are statements in the Smriti such as there's only one form of the three devas, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So from that we understand that Brahma and Vishnu are also Brahma and Shiva are also Vishnu. Is it not? So when that objection is placed, Sri Rupa Goswami presents this statement, issue. In the opinion of some, the three lords Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are equal. They cite statements from Smriti to support this opinion. For example, Eko Murtis Trayo Deva Brahma, Vishnu, Shivatmaka, from the original singular form of Supreme came the three gods Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Someone with this view will question the wisdom of considering Vishnu Supreme. The Purva Pakshi, the objector, explains that these lords are avatars of the Garbhodakashayi Purusha. The objector here refers to the Sri Vaishnava objector, who responds to this view that these lords are avatars of the Garbhodakashayi Purusha and that Vishnu is greater than Rudra and Padmabhava Brahma, lotus-born Brahma. As proof of this, he cites Bhrigu Munis testing each of the three deities recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 89. Vishnu is superior among the three Gunavataras, and certainly the Purushas, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and Tarakashayi Vishnu, are greater than he. Since Vasudeva of the Chaturvyuha is the origin of the Purushas, he is superior to them. And since this Vyuha originates from the Lord of Mahavaikuntha, he is supreme. The Vaishnava presenting this Purva Paksha concludes, Narayana of Mahavaikuntha is the Amshi, the source, from whom all forms of God originate. He is Swayam Rupa. Nano Mahashayvaihi Swanirnaye Sadashivo Mulatatum Pathyate Udahriyate Cha Lingam Puranavakyam Sadashiva Karanam Param Tasmacha Sarve Prabhavanti Deva Ityadi Tatha Sati Katham Atsya Swayam Rupatvam Tatraha Sadeti. Another objection, this time from devoted devotees or devoted adherents to Shaivism. The idea that Lord Shiva is supreme. While describing Lord Shiva, they read from the scripture statements to the effect that Sadashiva is the original principle. And they quote a statement from the Linga Purana. Sadashiva is the cause of the causes, supreme. Everything has come, all the devas have come from him. So there are statements like this. So then how can you say that Lord Narayana is the original form? With that in mind, he speaks the next verse. Sadashiva Kyo Yashamphu Sa Chai Shanyam Vitirmata. The Shambhu called Sadashiva is also considered a member of Lord Narayana's entourage. He resides in the northeast. A group of Shaivites calling themselves the Mahashaivas refer to the Linga Purana as authority for their conviction about Lord Shiva. He is described there as a source of the many incarnations of Shiva and the root cause of all existence. Sadashiva Karana Karanam Param Tasmacha Sarve Brahmavanti Deva. Sadashiva is the supreme cause of all causes. All gods arise from him. Considering this, how can Narayana be called the Swayam Rupa? To answer this challenge, our Purva Pakshi cites the Padma Purana's unequivocal statement describing Sadashiva as a member of Lord Narayana's entourage. The original Sadashiva mentioned in Sri Brahma Samhita is Lord Narayana, a Vilasa of Krishna, whereas the Sadashiva described in the Linga Purana is a subsequent expansion, an Amsha of Narayana. This second Sadashiva is the one who has a place among the Avarnas of Mahanarayana. Tasya tallokaishanya idamatra bodhyam Brahma Samhita. Okay. Brahma Samhitokta Sadashiva Krishna Vilaso Narayana. The Sadashiva described in Brahma Samhita is a Vilasa expansion of Krishna, is Narayana. Lingam Tasto Tat Avanas Tat Swamsha. And the Linga Purana describes Sadashiva, who is actually an expansion of that Sadashiva. Ato Dhruve Nayo Prayo Vailakshanyam Dvayor Nahi Deepotha Deepatuyatva Syad Vilasa Vilasino. Therefore, I contend that the original Lord Narayana's expansion of Krishna do not differ essentially from one another. After all, when one lamp is lit from another, the two are equally powerful. Evam Mahavaikunthanatam Sangam Nirupya. So, having described the Lord of Mahavaikunta with his various expansions, so the Pasakaha, Vivakshitam Sputayati, he now clarifies what he wants to say. Krishnasya Swayam Bhagavatve Pramana Labha Narayanasya Anadi Siddham Maheshwarya Vishishta Swarupatayam Pramana Prachayanja Anayoho Krishna Narayanayoho Prayaha Vailakshanya Matsyadi Narayanaho Viva Nastyeva. Because we find evidence that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, and because there is an abundance of evidence that Narayana is there always from beginningless time, and that he has a form which is endowed with great opulences and so on. Practically speaking, there is no distinction between Krishna and Narayana, unlike between Narayana and Matsya and these other forms. Into Purvattara Yor, Deepayor Iva, Salakshanyam Asti iti. Purvadipa Iva Narayana, Swayam Krishnastu, Tad Deepo, Tad Deepa Iva, Tad Tulyas, Tad Vilasa iti. But there is some distinction. Narayana is the first light, comparable to a first lamp, and he is original. Krishna is like the lamp that has come from Narayana. He is equal to Krishna, and he is an expansion of Narayana. The Purva Paksha concludes with these words. Having demonstrated Lord Narayana's glories, his worshipper makes a final statement about Krishna's essential quality, essential equality with Narayana. His basic argument is that there is no evidence that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, whereas there is an abundance of evidence that Sri Narayana's divine personality is complete with all eternal transcendental perfections. He actually reconciles how both of these two types of statements can be true. Therefore, the subtle distinction of original and expansion must be recognized between the two. Sharing almost all the qualities of the Lord of Vaikuntha, Krishna is practically equal to Narayana, like a second lamp lit from the first. Still, the second lamp owes its existence to the first. Therefore, Krishna is a Vilasa expansion of Lord Narayana. I'll stop at that. Let's see. What is the difference between Vaikuntha and Mahavaikuntha? Looks like Mahavaikuntha is an especially exalted region of the Vaikuntha universe. If material existence has so much of variety, with so many universes, and each universe having different planets, and different universes have different sizes, and you have demigods who have different sizes and different capabilities in different universes. And naturally, the Vaikuntha universe must be having plenty of internal variegatedness. This much I can gather so far. Today, one person asked me, what would be your activity when you go to Krishna Lok? I answered with full absorption in Krishna's service. It is eternal pleasure, that much only. The details I will know only after reaching there. Our duty is, it is more than duty. It is more than duty. That's a famous statement from Prahlad Maharaj that he himself is attracted to the Supreme Lord the way iron particles are attracted to a magnet. So Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur has taken note of that point. He says that in the spiritual world, Krishna's abode, everyone is attracted to Krishna spontaneously. It is beyond duty. So it is a land of irresistible loving service to Krishna. There are innumerable services corresponding to one's constitutional position. This information is given to me. Yes, of course, this is right. The details we'll get to know much later, and also for each person it may be different. I thought Padma Sundari Mataji wanted to ask. Just 1 minute, Mataji. No. Padma Sundari Mataji.
Prabhu, we saw today about, and we have been seeing this again and again, that originally in the spiritual world, they're all originals. And we see Shiva, there are Shivas even in the middle world, and Shiva, Sadashiva is the original one who is there in the spiritual world. And today we saw various expansions, there's counterparts in the material world. And there is a conflict or a confusion among devotees. The Prabhupada also mentions in Nectar of Devotion about Ganapati, worship Ganapati, in chapter 8 of Nectar of Devotion. He says, and then Prabhupada also mentions that everything should be Krishnized, means only for Krishna. And we see devotees worshipping Shiva, Ganesha, everything is Krishna, right? So
Krishna means what? What is that? Everything is Krishna. We don't say Ganapati is Krishna.
My question is, Prabhu, that there is a misunderstanding that you can worship any god because they're all there in the spiritual world. They all are spiritual. So you can worship. Because of late, you can see when Prabhupada's period, I haven't seen anybody worshipping Lord Shiva, Ganpati, and so on. Prabhupada said you can worship Ganpati, but Prabhupada also said if you worship Krishna, then everything is taken care of. So could you please explain on this? First question. The second question, after you explain, I'll ask you about.
Right. This is Nectar of Devotion. One should begin the worship of demigod Ganapati, who drives away all impediments in the execution of devotional service. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Ganapati worships the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadev, and in that way has become auspicious for the devotees in clearing out all impediments. Therefore, all devotees should worship Ganapati. Wait a minute, let me check if that is. Okay, fine. But we should remember that this statement here is for those who want to progress in Krishna consciousness. If they pray to Ganapati to remove impediments in the execution of devotional service, that is all right. That is all right. You can pray to any demigod if you want to attain love for Krishna. The problem comes when we understand the capabilities of these demigods in the material sphere, in their ability to give us extraordinary artha and kama. It's just at their fingertips now. You can just give it just in one shot. There's so much of power. And when one understands that due to piety, and you go before these demigods, and from past samskaras, you'll naturally feel inclined to ask them for, pray to them for material things, which is counterproductive in moving from Shraddha to Prema. So Prabhupada has also stated Krishna, for instance.
I am clear about that statement that only for worship of Krishna, only for Krishna, even the gopis worship Katyayani.
Correct.
But
In that
the thing is
Katyayani
that
section,
there is,
Prabhupada says that.
what to say, it just dwindles down and devotees now start to worship. Even in the altar previously, there was no Ganpati, no Shiva. Even worship of Nrsimhadev came later, So people just do all types of worship. Is everything for Krishna? Then what to say?
No, therefore, everything has to be done under the guidance of superior authorities who are aware of the strengths and weaknesses of individual practitioners of Krishna consciousness. Nothing can be done whimsically. Specifically, deity worship cannot be done whimsically at all. We cannot just pick up any book and read, nor can we just worship based on some statement that you read. You need to understand where it fits in, and you need to understand, first of all, whether you need to do it. We don't do everything bona fide. There are millions of things which are bona fide. But we don't do everything bona fide. We avoid everything forbidden. But regarding things which are bona fide, you need to know, because it is there is an ocean of information given in the Vedic scriptures. And that is reflected by perfect acharyas like Prabhupada also. So just like we cannot be a folio scholar, just open the Veda base and just pick up something and just come up with some idea and then promote it. Like that, we cannot come up with our own ideas also about whether we should be worshipping the demigods and so on. Everything has to be very carefully considered. Even though these demigods in their prototype forms are present in the spiritual world, you will not find our acharyas saying that we should worship them. When we worship this original form of the Supreme Lord in the form of Krishna, along with Radharani, or in the form of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, or Krishna, Balaram, and so on. That is what is prescribed. That's what Krishna wants me to do. So, in disobedience to the Supreme Lord's own will, if we try to engage in worship of these various deities, it is just inappropriate. What to speak of that? Even inappropriate worship of Krishna himself is wrong. Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vijamina Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpata Eva Kalpate. So everything has to be very carefully considered. Therefore, we have Shastra, we have the previous acharyas, and we have Prabhupada, and we have the followers of Prabhupada, and everyone is supposed to give evidence on the teachings of the scripture as it is coming through the perfect discipline succession. Otherwise, it will not have effect. It will simply not have effect. It's not enough that you just pick something from Shastra and just do it. You need to examine whether it has produced effect. The effect means it should lead to anartha nivritti. It should lead to spiritual progress. Spiritual progress, not very difficult to understand. How we understand that? Very easy actually. If you just open this one place, it's here. Shantiravyarthakavatvam viraktir manashunyata. These are symptoms of bhava bhakti. When these symptoms are uninterruptedly found in us, then it is understood that we have attained bhava bhakti, which is preliminary to prema bhakti. He's always anxious to utilize his time in the devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always 24 hours a day without deviation. He's always reserved and perseverant. He's always detached from all material attraction. He never longs for any material respect in return for his activities. He's always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. He's always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. He's always very much attached to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. He's always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. He's always very pleased to live in a place where the Lord's pastimes are performed. So are these coming about? Are these initially also we may have a little bit of these things. But if we are progressing in Krishna consciousness, this should increase and the rest should decrease. Or the 6 urges described in the first text of Upadeshamrita, that should decrease. The 6 activities which degrade us in our attempts to progress in Krishna consciousness, they should weaken their hold over us. The 6 activities which upgrade us in Krishna consciousness, they should have a stronger and stronger influence on us. Is this happening? You check. That's how we know. Otherwise, what is the point? You simply say that I have such a great doctor. I'm sick, I'm going to this doctor, but the doctor loves me so much. I also love him so much. And I love all the family members of the doctor also so much. And they also love me so much. And I'm taking the medicine, but I'm not getting cured. What does this mean? What does it mean? So it doesn't, sadhana bhakti itself means the endeavor to be absorbed in Krishna's service in order to attain bhava bhakti. Priti satya bhavet sadhya bhava sadhana vidhan. Otherwise, it's not even sadhana bhakti. Maybe bhakti, but it's not sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti means that you are aiming at attaining bhava bhakti. You're endeavoring, it's a pursuit. It's a pursuit, it's not just some ritual that you're engaging in. With the fantasy that after I die, I'm going to Golokvrindavan. What is this? Some Pan-ISKCON fantasy. Not like that. You need to check whether you're progressing or not. Prabhupada so many times talks about self-testing. So when we do all these wrong things, we do all crazy things, and you will not be able to progress. That is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur has prescribed Namashraya Bhakti, because you can easily understand whether you are progressing or regressing. You commit some offenses, you will not be able to progress in your chanting. You will not be able to progress in your chanting. Your quality and quantity of chanting, you will not be able to increase it. You will not be able to reduce the 6 urges and so on. Immediately you can understand. So, people can come up with any number of crazy ideas based on authentic statements. You can come up with crazy ideas based on authentic statements because you're putting them together in a manner that they are not meant to be put together. It has to be administered in a particular manner. Like Prabhupada says, just because there are medicines in the pharmacy shop doesn't mean you can go and pick up any medicine and it will cure you. It's not like that. Medicines have to be taken according to prescriptions given by a competent doctor. And the same competent doctor may give different combinations of medicines for different people. We are very careful.
Thank you, Prabhu. My second question. We are seeing also there is a counterpart in the material world of everybody whom is being mentioned here. And till now, I haven't had this doubt, but all of a sudden, I've been reading Laghu Bhagavatam the second or third time now, I think. But I've got this doubt when you just read all that again. Lord means Surya Dev, who is there in the materialistic world. He has a wife, and his wife had to go somewhere, so she left a shadow by which Shani Bhagavan was born. So that's a reflection. So does this mean that whoever is there in the material world, the counterparts are reflections? Because we keep saying that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. And we see the Vayu, everybody is personifications who are all there. So are they the reflections of the original ones? Is my question.
Because of some similarity, you can refer to the prototype and the similar object as a reflection, but only in a certain sense. Because strictly speaking, if you want to strictly consider the demigods and their original prototypes, the relationship between them to be that of a prototype and a reflected image, then when you move a hand by your mirror, then the reflected hand also moves correspondingly. I don't think that happens. The prototypes are liberated souls, whereas these personalities here, actually these are just padavis, posts, which can be occupied according to pious credits that are earned. Here Sri Baladev Vidyabhushana Prabhu in his commentary says that these demigods, they pray to those original prototypes, their respective prototypes, for their powers. So that's how they derive their powers. So the Indra here, he prays to the Indra there, and that's how he gets his power. I think you can say that this Indra is empowered by the original spiritual demigod, Indra. Just as there are Apsaras in Vaikuntha, but those Apsaras are not these Apsaras. They have Sachidananda bodies. It must be just like whatever vibhuti, extraordinary opulence we see here must be just a speck of the glory of, must be a reflection of the speck of the glory of the Lord's associates in the spiritual world. That's all.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Please elaborate on the two Sadashivas. What are the two Sadashivas? There is the Supreme Lord's. Oh, okay. There may be many more Sadashivas. Definitely, the Brahma Samhita talks about one Sadashiva. And here in the Linga Purana, it talks about another Sadashiva. At least this much we understand. One is situated in the universal covering, another is an expansion of Narayana. Let us be satisfied with that.
Can I comment on this, Prabhu? I asked this question when I read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita to Banswan Maharaj. And Maharaj said there is only one Sadashiva, and there are so many other Shivas. That was his answer for this question.
There also can be, it's just like saying there is only one Vishnu, but that one Vishnu has many forms also. That's also possible. It's quite possible. Okay, anything else? Prem goes on the two.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in text 244, in the translation is given analytic study of material. There are 5 aspects of spiritual education. So out of that, there is renunciation and austerity. So I am having some difficulty understanding exactly what is the difference between renunciation and austerity. For example, if I renounce wearing a silk dhoti, actually I am being austere by wearing a cotton dhoti. So what is the real correct difference? How to understand correct difference between renunciation and austerity?
These 5 elements, if I understand correctly, appear in the Pancharataka scriptures, where everything is well defined. This is what is meant by Sankhya, this is what is meant by Tapas, this is what is meant by Vairagya, and so on. But in general, Vairagya, Tapas are sometimes distinguished also. Vairagya refers to giving up. Tapasya also refers to giving up, but of a different type.
I mean, like, can you give an example? Yeah.
There are okay, in Valmiki Ramayana, there's a section where different sages came to meet Lord Ramachandra in Dandakaran. Actually, Valmiki presents a few verses describing the different types of austerities that they engaged in. Some of them, they lived only on air. Some only drank water. Like that, some 20, 25 different types of austerities that they accepted. These are considered tapasvis. Then you have Vairagya in the sense of, now these are special austerities. Then there are standard forms of renunciation. Vanaprastha is one level of renunciation. Sannyas is another level of renunciation. Vairagya. But here, when we talk about tapasya, we are talking of specific vows, of course, which are authorized in scripture. Specific vows. Just like, for instance, Lord Ram himself. He took up the specific vow of accepting only a single wife. It's a specific vow. In the Dharma Shastras, that is allowed. You're allowed to take up particular vows. They're also considered to be dharma. But just as when you take up a particular type of austerity, that I will give up this, I will follow on in this month of the year, I will give up eating this food. And it is a special form of renunciation, which is known as austerity. Prabhupada actually says the highest form of austerity is to chant the holy name. Bhagavad Gita commentary says that. So there he has clubbed, he has bracketed chanting itself within austerity. It looks like these expressions, Vairagya and Tapasya, are used in slightly different ways.
Like we see in Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj and Bharat Maharaj, they use the word, they renounce their palaces and renounce their kingdoms. So that is a total renunciation, right? That is nothing to do with austerity.
Well, that is standard renunciation. But it looks like there are optional forms of renunciation. You can additionally also give up other things. And I think austerity refers to that.
Mm-hmm.
Vedic civilization, in fact, encourages that we withdraw the senses from sense objects to the maximum possible extent, but in a manner that the body and mind can handle, and in a manner that we can progress in Hari Bhakti. If we cannot progress in Krishna consciousness, what is the use? Naradhite yati haris tapasata kim.
But Prabhuji, without austerity, you cannot progress in renunciation. For example, a person becomes a sannyasi. He does not lose his desire for sense gratification, but it is only probably by austerity that maybe he can control it, isn't it? Is it correct to say like that?
Well, one can develop, see, there is internal detachment and external renunciation. There are two aspects. Whenever you talk about Vairagya, we should remember that there are two aspects. One is internal detachment, another is externally giving it up. We have to ultimately come to the point of giving it up both internally and externally. We have to come to that point. And practice, authorized practice helps. Authorized forms of austerities, it does help, provided we do it with the right attitude and in the right combination. And when it's all put together in a package, it does help. But one can also develop such internal detachment and external renunciation if one progresses in pure bhakti. In that case, without these external austerities, you can get it. Therefore, we find statements like these ladies, they never went to Gurukula and took up the austerities of brahmacharya. They never did this, they never did that. How did they develop pure devotion service into the Supreme Lord to such an extent that they can give up everything and run behind him? You find statements like this because it's come from pure devotion service unto Krishna himself. That itself can generate it. But then if you engage in impure devotion service to Krishna, then it does not immediately generate it. It takes many lifetimes to fructify. So therefore, the practice of austerity may be considered useful.
Really, one more question. In 247, it is said, water born from the perspiration of Vedic corollaries. What are Vedic corollaries?
Tell me the Sanskrit verse.
247. Oh, Sanskrit.
Wait. What does the Sanskrit words begin? Okay, what is the verse number you said? Haribol?
Haribol,
What is the verse number?
247.
Pradhana Paramavyamno. Oh, this verse.
Yeah.
This is the Vedangas.
Sorry?
These are the Vedangas.
I mean, what's the difference between Vedas and Vedic
Okay,
corollaries?
okay. Wait. Let's, these are the Vedangas. Shiksha, Chanda, Vyakarana, Nirutta, Jyotisha, Kalpa. Okay, here it comes. Okay, anyway, this is useful information. Veda refers to, in the technical sense, the Veda refers to, when you come across statements like this, he knows the truths of the Vedas and Vedangas. When you come across statements like that, then the Veda refers to the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. Vedangas refers to 6 literatures ancillary to the Vedas. Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakaran, Niruttam, Jyotisham, Gati, Chandasam, Vichitis, Cheti, Shadangani, Pachakshate. The 6 Vedangas are said to be Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirutta, Jyotisha, and Chandas. Shiksha provides instruction on how to articulate the letters beginning with A. Shiksha gives instruction on how to pronounce the Sanskrit sounds as found in the Veda in terms of the place of articulation, organ of articulation, effort in articulation, and accents. When you learn Sanskrit, you'll come to that. Kalpa provides instructions on the sequence of tasks involved in conducting Vedic sacrifice. You do this first, you do this next, you do this parallelly, and so on. Vyakarana teaches which words are bona fide to use, grammar, Sanskrit grammar. Nirutta, etymology, definitively states how words have been formed through insertion, deletion, and replacement of letters. Jyotisha scriptures, astrology, establish the appropriate times for performing scripturally prescribed duties and so on. Chandas, prosody, refers to scriptures that teach rules for composition of poetry. So these are Vedangas. 6 Vedangas.
Thank you, Brother.
Okay, anything else? All right. Okay. If you have further questions, we can discuss in the Telegram group.